When we imagine a survival scenario, we often picture movement. We imagine hauling water, boarding up windows, or patrolling the perimeter of our property. But for those of us in the autumn of our lives, living in quiet subdivisions where the silence can be deafening, this Hollywood version of survival is not just unrealistic, it is dangerous. Let's look at this through a different lens. The economy of energy. Think of your body like a bank account. Every morning you wake up with a specific balance of energy. When the grid fails and the thermostat stops working, inflation hits your body hard. Here is a scientific fact that shocks most people. Even if you lie perfectly still in bed, your body burns nearly 70% of your daily calories just to keep your heart beating and your body temperature at 98.6 degrees. In a slow collapse scenario, where the house gets colder and the stress levels rise, that cost goes up. Shivering alone can triple your metabolic rate. Anxiety and the mental load of decision-making burn glucose at an alarming speed. The mistake most people make is buying expensive food. I don't mean expensive in dollars. I mean expensive in effort. A bag of dry beans is cheap at the store, but in a crisis it is incredibly costly. It costs gallons of precious water to clean. It costs hours of fuel to cook. And most importantly, it costs you physical effort to prepare and digest. If you spend 200 calories hauling water and chopping wood to cook a meal that gives you 300 calories, you have made a profit of almost nothing. You are slowly going bankrupt. For us, the goal is not to work harder, it is to work smarter. We need foods that offer high net profit. We need nutrition that enters the system with zero friction, no cooking, no chewing fatigue, no preparation. Today we are identifying 5 quiet foods. These are the silent investors in your survival bank account. They ask nothing of you. No fuel, no water, no labor, and give everything in return. By choosing these foods, you aren't just eating, you are mastering the art of conservation, ensuring that your limited energy reserves are spent on what truly matters, staying warm, staying calm, and staying alive. I know that for many of us, the idea of bugging out is physically impossible due to mobility issues or medical needs. If you are preparing to shelter in place with specific physical limitations, please leave a comment below. Let's share strategies on how to secure a home when moving quickly isn't an option. We learn best from each other. Pemmican, the eternal fuel for the long night. Imagine it is day 4 of a winter power outage. The silence in your subdivision is heavy. The food in your refrigerator has spoiled, and the house is beginning to lose its warmth. You are tired not from physical exertion, but from the mental strain of uncertainty. In this moment, you do not need a meal that requires boiling precious water or standing over a camp stove. You need pure, concentrated energy that warms you from the inside out. You need pemmican. Pemmican is the ultimate quiet food because it is a complete break from the modern food system. It is not merely dried meat. It is a scientifically perfect mixture of pulverized lean meat and rendered fat tallow, sometimes with a few dried berries. While it may sound simple, this specific combination is a biological miracle. It is one of the only foods on Earth that humans can live on exclusively for months without suffering from malnutrition. For those of us in our golden years, the magic of pemmican lies in its density. When you are conserving energy, you don't want to fill your stomach with fluff, like bread or instant noodles that leave you hungry an hour later. You want high-octane fuel. A single pound of pemmican packs nearly 3,500 calories that is enough to power a grown man for 2 full days of heavy activity compressed into a block the size of a paperback book. In a slow collapse scenario, your body struggles to regulate temperature as you age. This is where the fat content in pemmican becomes a lifesaver. The 50% fat composition acts as a slow-burning log for your metabolic fire, generating body heat for hours after you eat it. But the true value for a quiet, low-profile pantry is its longevity. Unlike canned goods that can rust or bloat or grains that attract weevils, pemmican is virtually immortal. Because the moisture has been removed and the fat encapsulates the protein properly, stored pemmican can remain edible and nutritious for up to 50 years without a single preservative or refrigerator. It is a legacy food, something you can buy today and ignore until the day you desperately need it. To eat it, you do not need teeth of steel. You simply shave off a small piece and let it melt in your mouth like a savory caramel. There is no cooking smell to drift down the street, no clatter of pots, and no waste. It is the most dignified, efficient way to stay fed when the world around you has stopped moving. 2. Raw honey, the golden liquid of life. In the quiet isolation of a long-term power outage, the biggest threat to your safety isn't always starvation, it's the fog of confusion. As we age, our tolerance for blood sugar fluctuations diminishes. When you wake up in a cold house anxious about the days ahead, your brain burns through glucose rapidly. If that level drops too low, you might make a simple mistake, like miscounting your remaining heart medication or tripping in a dark hallway. In these moments, you don't need a heavy meal. You need an immediate sterile injection of energy. This is where raw honey becomes more than just a pantry staple. It becomes a medical device. I am not talking about the cute bear-shaped plastic bottles filled with corn syrup and amber food coloring found in the bargain aisle. I am talking about raw, unfiltered honey. This substance is nature's only food that never spoils. To give you an idea of its stability, archaeologists have discovered pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs buried over 3,000 years ago that are still perfectly edible and safe to eat today. It requires no rotation, no refrigeration, and no special packaging. You can buy a jar today, place it on a high shelf, and your grandchildren could open it decades from now to find it as fresh as the day it was sealed. For those of us living in suburban homes where access to a pharmacy might be cut off, honey serves a dual purpose that few other foods can claim. It is a powerful antibiotic. Older skin is thinner and takes longer to heal. A minor scratch from a rusty nail or a kitchen knife can quickly turn into a life-threatening infection without antibiotics. In a grid-down scenario, smearing raw honey on a wound creates a barrier that releases low levels of hydrogen peroxide, killing bacteria and sealing the injury from the air. It is a wound dressing that you can also eat. From a psychological standpoint, honey is a moral booster. The taste of pure sweetness triggers the release of dopamine in the brain, momentarily lowering stress hormones. In a situation where you are eating bland survival rations like oats or hardtack, a single teaspoon of honey can be the difference between despair and a moment of comfort. It is silent, instant, and requires zero preparation. It is the most quiet way to keep your mind sharp and your body safe when the modern world fades away. 3. Canned sardines and tuna in oil, the hidden calorie multiplier. When the power lines go dead, the first casualty in your home is the freezer. Those steaks and chicken breasts you have carefully stocked up on will become a liability within 48 hours. For those of us who cannot go out and hunt or fish, maintaining a steady intake of protein is the hardest challenge of a slow collapse. Without protein, your muscles weaken, and more dangerously, your immune system begins to falter just when you need it most to fight off illness in a cold house. But not all canned fish is created equal. If you look in your pantry right now, you likely have tuna packed in spring water. For years, doctors have told us to choose water-packed to save our waists and hearts. However, in a survival scenario, weight loss is not a goal, it is a threat. This brings us to a critical pivot in your preparation. You must switch to fish packed in oil. Here is why, in a world without heating, your body burns fuel rapidly just to stay warm. Water offers zero energy. Oil, however, is the densest source of energy available to humans. A single can of tuna packed in oil contains nearly double the calories of the exact same fish packed in water, meaning half the space on your shelf yields twice the energy for your body. When you eat a can of sardines in olive oil, you do not drain the liquid. You drink it, or you sop it up with a cracker. That oil is a hidden reserve of warmth and stamina. Beyond calories, there is the issue of brain fog. The omega-3 fatty acids found in these fish are essential for cognitive function. When you are isolated, tired, and making decisions about rationing water or securing your windows, a sharp mind is your best defense. Depression and lethargy can set in quickly when the lights are out for weeks. These nutrients are practically antidepressants for a stressed brain. From a quiet perspective, these small tins are tactically superior to large cans of Spam or beef stew. They are single-serving portions. You open one, you eat the entire contents, and there are no leftovers to refrigerate because you have no refrigerator. There is no waste to spoil and create a smell that permeates the house. However, a word of caution on silence. The smell of fish is a beacon. In a hungry neighborhood or even just to wildlife, that scent is loud. Once you finish a tin, do not simply throw it in the trash can. Rinse it thoroughly with a little gray water-saved dishwater before disposing of it. In a quiet world, odor travels further than sound. Managing that scent is just as important as the meal itself. 4. Rolled oats, the cold soak. Miracle. When the world outside stops moving, the rhythm of your morning routine changes instantly. There is no humming coffee maker, no toaster popping, and certainly no microwave. For most households, the pantry is stocked with bags of white rice and dried beans. While these are excellent calorie sources, they share a fatal flaw in a grid-down scenario. They are hard as rocks. To make them edible, you must boil water for 20 to 40 minutes. In a house with no electricity, boiling water is an expensive luxury, that consumes your limited supply of propane or butane fuel you should be saving to heat your room during a freeze. This is why the humble canister of rolled oats is technically superior to almost any other grain in your cupboard. We often associate oatmeal with a hot, steaming bowl of comfort food, but that requires heat we may not have. The survival strategy here is a technique called cold soaking. It is incredibly simple. You place the oats in a jar, cover them with room temperature water or rehydrated milk if you have it, and wait. Because of how they are processed, rolled oats are actually steamed and flattened between massive rollers before they are packaged, meaning they are technically already cooked and safe to eat without ever touching a flame. Unlike raw flour or dried beans, which remain indigestible or even toxic without heat, rolled oats will soften into a perfectly edible, nutrient-dense meal in just about an hour of soaking in plain water. It requires zero fuel. It creates zero steam to fog up your windows. It releases zero aroma to drift into the hallway or outside. It is the definition of quiet nutrition. For those of us managing aging digestive systems, this food offers a critical biological advantage. When our activity levels drop because we are confined indoors, digestion often slows down, leading to discomfort that can be distracting and debilitating. Oats are rich in beta-glucan, a specialized fiber that forms a thick gel in your stomach. This gel performs two vital functions. It keeps your digestive system moving gently and naturally, and it slows down the absorption of carbohydrates. This means that instead of a sugar spike followed by a crash, which leaves you shaky and irritable, you get a slow, steady release of energy that keeps your hands steady and your mind calm for hours. In a situation where every decision matters, you cannot afford the distraction of a growling stomach or the panic of low blood sugar. A bowl of cold-soaked oats, perhaps mixed with a spoonful of that raw honey or peanut butter we discussed, provides a complete heart-healthy meal that sustains you without costing a single matchstick. It turns a cold, dark morning into a manageable start to the day. 5. Peanut butter. The ultimate energy-dense anchor. If we strip survival down to its absolute mathematics, it becomes a game of space versus energy. In a small suburban pantry, or perhaps a plastic bin you have slid under your bed, you have limited real estate. You cannot fill your home with hundreds of cans of soup. They are heavy, mostly water, and offer very little fuel for the space they occupy. When the supply trucks stop running and the grocery store shelves sit empty for weeks, you need food that acts like nuclear fuel. Small in size, but explosive in power. This is why a simple jar of peanut butter is arguably the most valuable item in your possession. We often think of peanut butter as a children's lunch staple, but in a survival context, it is a caloric powerhouse. To understand its true value, consider the return on investment regarding shelf space. A standard 16-ounce jar sitting in your cupboard right now holds roughly 2,700 calories more energy than 3 entire freeze-dried survival meals combined, yet it costs less than $4. You could technically survive for a full week on just 3 small jars requiring no cooking, no water, and no preparation. For those of us dealing with the realities of aging, particularly the struggle to stay warm when the furnace fails, peanut butter serves a specific physiological function. Digestion creates heat. This process, known as thermogenesis, is your body's internal furnace. Because peanut butter is packed with healthy fats and proteins, it digests slowly and steadily. Taking a spoonful right before you crawl into your blankets on a freezing night does more than curb your hunger. It fuels your metabolism to generate body heat while you sleep, protecting you from hypothermia in a way that a bowl of rice or fruit never could. From a quiet perspective, the packaging itself is a tactical advantage. Unlike metal cans that clank and chime when moved, a sound that can travel surprisingly far in a silent house, plastic peanut butter jars are soundless. If you drop one, it bounces. It doesn't crash. There is no metallic snap of a pull tab to announce you are eating. However, a practical note for our specific demographic: always choose creamy over crunchy. In high-stress situations where dehydration is common, or if you are taking medications that cause dry mouth swallowing, dry or coarse foods can become difficult and even a choking hazard. Creamy peanut butter slides down easily, requires no chewing, and can be eaten directly off a spoon by trembling hands without spillage. It is the perfect comfort food that secretly doubles as a life raft, keeping you fueled, warm, and safe without ever striking a match. Ultimately, survival at this stage of our lives is not about conquering nature or fighting off enemies. It is about outlasting chaos with our dignity intact. The silence of a neighborhood without power does not have to be a void of fear. With the right preparation, that silence can be your shield. By stocking your pantry with these 5 quiet anchors: pemmican raw, honey oil-packed fish, Rolled oats and peanut butter, you are buying yourself the most valuable asset in a crisis time. Time to let the initial panic of the general public subside. Time to wait for the power to return or for help to arrive. Time to sit in your favorite chair, wrap yourself in a blanket, and make decisions not out of hunger but out of wisdom. You do not need to be a soldier to survive. You just need to be the person who refused to be a victim of circumstance. When the lights go out, let others make the noise. You will be safe, warm, and fed, waiting quietly for the storm to pass. I know that for many of us, the standard advice of bugging out or running to the woods is simply impossible due to mobility issues, medical needs, or age. We are staying put. If you have strategies for securing a home when moving quickly isn't an option, or specific preparations for those with limited mobility, please share them in the comments below. Let's build a knowledge base for those of us who plan to stand our ground.